The dichotomy of Donnie McClurkin faith, scandal, and the unseen partners for decades, Donnie McClurkin has stood as a colossus in gospel music. His voice, an instrument of raw power and declared redemption, has soundtracked the faith journeys of millions. From Stand Do We Fall Down, anthems of overcoming. His testimony a harrowing and public journey through childhood sexual abuse and, as he has framed it, a departure from homosexuality cemented him as a symbol of God's transformative power. He became more than a singer, he became a doctrine, a living testament to a specific theological stance on sexuality and sin. But for just as long, a counter-narrative has swirled in the shadows of the choir stands and church hallways. A narrative not of his celebrated redemption, but of alleged secrecy, private struggles, and partnerships that contradict the public pulpit. This isn't just about one man's contradictions. This is about excavating the ecosystem that enables, protects, and is sometimes complicit in maintaining the chasm between the public persona and the alleged private life. Who are the unseen partners in these church scandals? They are not just individuals, but systems, theologies, and a culture of silence. Today we are digging deep, not for salacious details, but for a structural truth. We are examining the foundations upon which this dichotomy is built and sustained. Acta the Foundation Theology as a blueprint for secrecy. To understand any scandal surrounding a figure like McClurkin, you must first understand the theological architecture that makes it possible. The Black Church, in many of its expressions, exists as a nexus of spiritual refuge, social identity, and moral authority. Its theology, for all its liberating power, has often held a complex and frequently oppressive stance on human sexuality. The doctrine of hate the sin, love the sinner becomes, in practice, a prison of expected transformation. McClurkin didn't create this environment, he became its most famous amplifier. His 2002 interview on the 700 Club was a seismic event. He stated he was delivered from homosexuality, framing it alongside drug addiction as an affliction from which one could be cured. This wasn't just a personal testimony, it was a theological weaponization of his story. It directly partnered with a creed that denies the innate, immutable nature of LGBTQ+ identity. This theology creates the first and most powerful secret partner, a doctrine of conditional grace. This doctrine demands a performance. It says your authenticity is a threat to the community's moral witness. To belong, you must either change or conceal. For a public figure, the stakes are cosmic. Your career, your ministry, your very soul, as defined by your community, hangs in the balance. The pressure is not merely social, it is presented as spiritual. The church, intended to be a house of refuge, becomes for many a house of mirrors, where one must constantly reflect a distorted, acceptable image. This sets the stage for a double life, not as a choice of deceit, but often as a desperate strategy for survival. The first allegations, then, are never just about behavior, they are an indictment of this very system. When whispers arise about a gospel artist's private life, they are whispers against this theological prison. The scandal is that the message of come as you are has an unwritten, asterisked clause, but do not stay as you are. Act 2. The inner circle enablers, protectors, and the ministry of silence. No public figure operates alone. Around a star like McClurkin exists an ecosystem: managers, pastors, label executives, family, close friends, and church leadership. This inner circle forms the second set of secret partners, the custodians of the image. Their motivations are a tangled mix of the divine and the decidedly earthly. Financial ministry. A gospel music career is a ministry, but it is also an economic engine. Tours, albums, book deals, and church invitations generate revenue that supports not just the artist, but a whole team. A scandal that destabilizes the artist's credibility threatens livelihoods. The incentive to manage, obscure, or explain away allegations becomes a matter of fiscal survival. Institutional protection. The church as an institution prizes its reputation. A high-profile fall of a delivered icon wouldn't just be a personal failure, it would be a theological embarrassment. It would crack the foundational narrative that prayer and willpower can cure homosexuality. Therefore, church leadership may engage in a ministry of silence, privately counseling, praying, but publicly affirming the individual, while discouraging gossip, which is often how allegations are initially framed. Loyalty and faith. Many in the inner circle genuinely believe in the person and the message. They see the allegations as attacks from the enemy, designed to thwart a mighty ministry. Their protection is fueled by a conviction that they are shielding God's anointed from persecution. This spiritualizes the cover-up, making it a righteous duty. We must look at the responses or lack thereof from McClurkin's associations over the years. When controversies flared, like his inclusion and subsequent removal from a 2007 Obama campaign event due to LGBTQ+ backlash, or when allegations surfaced online from unnamed individuals claiming personal relationships, what was the response from his network? Typically, a closing of ranks. Official silence. Statements affirming his ministry without addressing specifics. This unified front isn't necessarily proof of guilt, but it is a blueprint for how scandal is contained. The message is controlled, the narrative is kept on the theology of transformation, and the private realm is declared off limits. This circle also includes alleged private partners themselves. Their silence is often the most purchased commodity. They may be bound by fear of exposure, of spiritual condemnation, of destroying a man they may still care for. They may be given assurances of prayer and change. Their stories are the most submerged, emerging in fragmented, anonymous online posts, or in the hushed conversations after church service. They are the ghosts in this machine, their truth the most carefully guarded secret of all. Act 3: The pivotal moment, a reckoning delayed? Every story has a turning point. For McClurkin, a pivotal moment arrived not from a church investigation or a tell-all interview, but from an unexpected, secular source: the 2019 documentary series Surviving R. Kelly. In a chilling segment, McClurkin appeared as a character witness for R. Kelly, who faced accusations of serial sexual abuse and predation. McClurkin, sitting in a church, framed Kelly as a good guy and lamented how the world loves to sensationalize and tear down celebrities. This moment was a seismic revelation for many. It showcased a glaring disconnect. Here was a man who survived childhood sexual abuse, a trauma he openly and powerfully cites as part of his own narrative, publicly vouching for a man accused of perpetrating that very trauma on young women and girls. The theological lens through which he viewed sin and redemption seemed to undergo a stark, selective shift. Homosexuality in his public doctrine required a definitive, deliverance-style break. Yet alleged predatory behavior against women by a friend could be contextualized, minimized, and met with public solidarity. This moment was a key that unlocked a deeper suspicion for the public. It wasn't just about allegations of private consensual behavior anymore. It revealed a hierarchy of sin and practice, and a loyalty to a fraternity of fame that could seemingly override other moral imperatives. The secret partner exposed here was selective judgment. The backlash was swift and severe. For many in the LGBTQ+ community and allies, it crystallized the hypocrisy. For many of his supporters, it was a confusing misstep. For the church at large, it was a moment of profound reckoning that was largely left unreckoned. McClurkin later offered a qualified apology, saying he was profoundly sorry for the pain his appearance caused, but standing by his belief in accountability and forgiveness. The system of inner circle protection shifted into overdrive, and the controversy was, once again, contained. But the fracture in his public image was now a canyon. Act 4: The real victims and the path forward in dissecting scandals. We often fixate on the star at the center, but the true collateral damage is vast and often invisible. First, the LGBTQ+ congregants, especially youth, who sit in pews every Sunday hearing a gospel of self-rejection. When a figure like McClurkin declares his deliverance, it isn't just a story, it becomes a benchmark against which they are measured. Their inability to change is seen as a lack of faith. This theological environment, reinforced by his testimony, has driven countless individuals to trauma, depression, self-harm, and a fractured relationship with God. The secret partner here is spiritual violence. Second, the alleged private partners, whose stories are buried under layers of non-disclosure agreements, shame, and spiritual coercion. They are denied their own narrative, living in a limbo, where their truth is a threat to a kingdom they may have once believed in. Third, the integrity of the faith itself. When the institution prioritizes image over integrity, doctrine over compassion, and celebrity over accountability, it loses its moral authority. It makes the church a place of performance, not grace. The secret partner is institutional cynicism. So, what is the path forward? It begins with dismantling the partnerships that enable the scandal. 1. Dismantling the theology of conditionality. The church must evolve towards a theology of radical, inclusive grace that separates sin from core identity and affirms the sacred worth of LGBTQ+ individuals. 2. Prioritizing people over platforms. Inner circles must be comprised of true accountability partners, not just image managers. This requires a courage that values truth over tribalism. 3. Centering the voices of the marginalized, the stories of those hurt by this system. LGBTQ+ believers and those entangled in private scandals must be heard not as threats, but as necessary testimonies for healing. 4. Embracing nuance. We must move beyond the binary of sinner or saint. Human beings, even gospel legends, are complex. Acknowledging that struggle is not the same as condemning it, it is an invitation to authentic community. Conclusion: the truth beyond the headlines. The truth behind Donnie McClurkin's secret partners isn't found in a single leaked document or a confirmed name. It is embedded in a system. It is a theology that demands invisibility, an inner circle that equates protection with loyalty, a culture that sensationalizes and then forgets, and a public that participates in the cycle by demanding perfect heroes. McClurkin's story is a tragic American gospel. It is about a man who survived profound trauma to find a voice that inspired millions, yet whose life became ensnared in the very contradictions of the institution that raised him up. To uncover the truth is to look beyond the man to the mirror. It asks us, what kind of church are we building? One of image or one of integrity? One of secrecy or one of sacred, messy, authentic truth? The final, most powerful partner in any scandal is our own complacency. The choice to look away, to not ask hard questions, to value the anthem over the reality of the singer. The digging deep must now happen within our own communities, our own theologies, and our own hearts. Thanks for the watching and subscribe.